General Weygand has called the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin.
Welcome to the Lead Pursuit Podcast, a podcast covering Blood Red Skies, a game of World War II aerial combat.
Welcome to the Lead Pursuit Podcast. This is episode 10. And as you can tell, this is Brett, not Doug, today with the intro. Doug is away out of the country doing his other job. But I have with me Chris. Say hi, Chris.
How you doing, buddy?
And I have with us Kevin Hammond from Miscellaneous Miniatures.
Miscellaneous Miniatures. Yeah, this is Kevin.
Great to have you with us, Kevin. Man, we've wanted to have you on for a while because the fact of the matter is we use the heck out of your products. And, you know, one thing I notice, whether it's on the Pursuit Podcast Facebook page or probably most often on places like the Ready Room, we get lots of questions about, hey, where did those decals, where'd you get those decals? And, you know, 9 times out of the 10, it's always from Kevin over at Miscellaneous Miniatures. And I don't mean our own posts. I'm talking about everybody's posts, right? People putting up pictures of their completed projects and everybody's wowing about how great they look. And a big part of that, of course, is those decals. And
yeah, that kind of took me by surprise. I guess it started a little over a year ago, back in April, May, when I got an email from a gentleman wanting some Spitfire and 109 decals for a new game. And it went nuts.
That's not too long ago.
No, it's been pretty crazy since then.
Has the response from the Blood Red Skies community been one of your largest responses you've had yet to making decals?
That and the other Warlord game, Cruel Seas. For some reason,
very cool.
Yeah, some reason people wanted to put numbers on their 1/300 scale ships and boats. Printer will do it, so there you go.
Nice. Well, Kevin, tell us a little bit about all the horrible life choices you've made that got you to this point where you're making decals for little planes and little boats. How did that even happen?
Okay. Well, it all started back in the 50s, very late 50s. Didn't do anything then, but early in the 60s, I started making models and painting, and mostly aircraft. My dad was in the Federal Aviation Administration, so we lived around airfields, mostly military, Air Force, and moved around a bit. Spent a good bit of time up in Alaska, and we could see the B-17s flying over to fight fires. They use them as water bombers. So had an aviation background, modeling background. Learned to fly when I was in high school. My dad taught me. He's 84, still flying.
Oh.
Love him to death. And so from high school, my eyes had gotten a little bad, so I couldn't be a pilot. I was looking at being a guy in the back seat of a Marine aircraft, but the Army saved me. And went to school with the Army, and in the Army I was a tanker and a paratrooper, which is a nice combination. And then after my troop time, spent a lot of time in staff as an officer and then as a contractor and civilian, where the government taught me how to make decals. And by that I mean doing PowerPoint slides, Harvard graphics, and that kind of stuff.
Oh, and fellow PowerPoint Jedi. So yeah, we're this whole crew is basically, it has had a lot of staff officer time, and I think in fact I was telling Brett today, I was like, he was asking me how I was putting labels on some of the photos I was doing, you know, what unit it was and who was in the unit, and I told him, I said, dude, just use PowerPoint. Yeah. We're all used to PowerPoint.
That's awesome. That's why I said horrible life choices, because you had told me earlier you were in the Army, so that's
yep.
We can beat up on these Marine Corps guys. They kind of outnumber me.
Yeah, well, I actually have to have Kevin on later, so you've got another person in your fighting hole to shoot at us with. And I'm an Army brat, but you know, my dad was a Ranger, my mom was a WAC, and my brother was a quartermaster. He just retired a couple years ago. So I come from an all Army family and grew up in Germany in the Army. And the reason I joined the Marine Corps is because I was around the Army my entire life, and I just wanted to see something different in the world. But yeah, I think this whole crew has pretty much got a heavy military background.
Yeah,
but that's pretty cool.
So are you playing Blood Red Skies besides, you know, making the decals everybody wants?
I am not playing Blood Red Skies. Don't have a game. I have some of the Mustang models, but I've played. It's been a couple of years now since played Check Your Six, Aerodromes 1, 2, and 3, Wings of Glory, Dawn of War, those games. But lately, it's just been board game. Settlers of Catan and stuff like that.
Hey, well, that you touched on some games that I think you and Doug could have a lot of conversations about, because he brings up games that I've never even heard of that he's played, and I'm like, wow, man, I don't think I know anybody that has more game knowledge than he does. So it's good to have you on board. What's you told me a little bit about your background. Tell us how you came to the decision to start up a company to make these decals. How does that happen?
Well, as I mentioned, in the Army, there's a point where it's not really fun anymore. It's just a job. And that happened for me, leaving troops and going to the staff job. And you do that because you got to make the money to pay the mortgage, and support the family. And about 7 years ago, my wife passed, and I lost a good friend. And my youngest kid was 28. And I said, what the hell am I doing here? And I decided I'm going to leave the government and I'm going to go do this. And so that's why I started off as a painting service, painted pretty much anything, and decided I didn't want to do boats or ships. And I'd known Dave Schmidt at Armaments and Miniature for, I guess since 2007. I've been painting his display models, and he was having trouble with his decal provider. And especially for the 1/200, 1/100 scale models he makes. And kind of on a whim, I bought a printer that prints white, and now I make decals more than I paint.
Yeah, that's the big thing, painting, printing white. I've done a little bit of the doing the laser print decals or doing the bubble jet decals, and that's the one thing you can't do. And it's one thing, and plus I think when you guys, with a professional printer, you've got, it's so much crisper than something you're going to pull off your printer. I can tell you, working with your decals now through, I think I've done 3 different airframes with your decals. I like working with your decals better than just about any decals I've worked with.
Well, thank you.
I like the film, and I like the fact that when you get decals from you, it's packaged well. There's a complete sheet on what you should do to lay the decal down. Usually when you get decals, it's like, here's a decal sheet. It's like a secondary thought in anything you get, even when you order decals online. And yours is like, you get this like hand done letter that's signed by you. That's like the entire process of how you should use your decals. And if you follow that to a T, I got to tell you, man, your decals are beautiful. They lay down so well on models.
Thanks. I use them myself.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to get you doing more.
Okay.
They've been a dream to work with. And the thing I was initially so impressed with was just the variety you have. I'm collecting majority Luftwaffe stuff at this point, and I'm pretty impressed when I just, click down on the website on the categories to get to the 1 to 200 Luftwaffe stuff for World War II. Man, it's pretty robust, that list of stuff that's available. In fact, it has, in some of my projects, I've had lots of choices of what unit or whatever I could paint up. Often, I think I mentioned this in an earlier episode, I've actually looked on your website first before deciding which squadron or whatever I was going to paint, because of the decals that were available for the particular airframe I was thinking of doing.
Yeah, I think I remember listening to that.
So how the heck do you, what drives that? Is it just people calling you saying, hey, I really want some decals for this unit, or did you already have kind of a list to start with? How did that happen?
Well, there's, of course, Armaments and Miniature. Dave's got all those wonderful models in 3 scales. The airplanes are in 3 scales, 1/100, 1/200, 1/300. And then he's got some landing craft and some ground vehicles. And I wanted to someday have at least a decal sheet for every model that he makes. And so that's one goal that's out there. The next is, which era, unit, faction, whatever you want to call it, do I want to do? And a lot of that's, he'll tell me what he wants sometimes, but he's usually free with it. And then it's just back on me to, I loved the book Thunderbolt as a kid. Robert Johnson is P-47. So I did his planes. I did the 56 fighter group. Or you read Stuka Pilot, or Torpedo Pilot, or any number of the old Bantam books, paperbacks that I've worn the covers off of, and I try and pick those units or others that I've read about, and then you get a lot of email coming in. I'd like to see this unit or this particular plane. Try and build a unit around that.
That's really cool. Yeah, I have a lot of questions for you on that because I'm working on a project right now that you have some decals that are very similar, but I'm hoping to be able to maybe change some numbers and letters to represent different units and stuff. And from what we were talking about this a little bit earlier, it sounded like that's not terribly hard to do. What's your process?
As long as the basic framework is there, it doesn't take too long. For RAF units, Spitfires, Hurricanes, or even some of the German units, if it's just the color of the number, repositioning the code letters, something like that, one letter to another, that can be done in a couple hours.
Well, what's your process when somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, there's this unit. Take for instance, like the Hellcat unit, and then the name is escaping me right now. The one that's got the face on it. It's like a growling face. Actually, it was kind of funny because the other day I got a squadron shop catalog in. I wasn't even thinking about doing Hellcats, and the front of the squadron shop catalog was that Hellcat with that face, and I was like, let me go over to Miscellaneous Miniatures and see if they've got anything like that. And it was like the exact decal was there. I was like, oh, that is just so cool. I was like, okay, I'm doing an order right now. But what is the process when somebody comes to you and says, hey, this unit, I need this kind of stuff? Is it like, are they passing you art? Are they passing you clips? Are they passing you that type of stuff? Or how does that process work?
Come in with an email, and I'd like to know the kind of plane, if it's a plane, or the subject, the scale, if they've got a scale. If they're using 28 millimeter, then I need to know the dimensions of the surface that it'll go on. And then if they can send reference pictures or a URL, a link to something, I can use that. And then what I do is take a look at it, and I don't charge a commission to design it, actually. But what I want to be able to do is turn it into a unit or a sheet that I can then put on in the web store, and hopefully other people will buy it, so I don't, spend 40 hours for $5.
Yeah.
For that one sheet of decals. But then, once I have an understanding of what the project is, then I'll start doing some graphic design. And then once I have a basic shape, I'll try and size it. That's where you get with the scale. And I have a lot of test models, most of them armaments in miniature, that I can run the test graphics on an inkjet printer on regular paper, cut it out and hold it up against the model and say, yeah, that looks about right. If I don't have a test model, what I'll generally do is send the customer a PDF of the graphic that has the size that it'll be, and ask them to cut it out and hold it against their model and see if that's what they want. And then we make adjustments from there. In either case, if I print it or they print it and it doesn't look right, then I'll make adjustments. And then when it gets to where I think it's right, then I'll include it on a test run on decal paper. And then,
so do you print your stuff in lots, or do you do it? Because I know sometimes things go out of stock. Or I was just wondering about the process. Is this something like you get an order and you're printing based on the order, or are you, I print 10 of these and when they're gone, I print 10 more? I was just wondering how you manage your stock and that type of stuff.
Yeah. I'll get to that real quick, but finish with the custom process. Once the guy likes the graphics, what I'll do is organize the sheet of decals, and then I'll print that. As far as a normal day, get up in the morning. This is full time for me. Get up in the morning, get things going, check email. If sometimes there's no orders, sometimes there's 15. and I'll start going through the orders. And I don't anymore keep a large stock on hand. So if I do have it on hand, I'll pull it. If I don't have it on hand, then I'll make a note. Once I have all the don't have on hands for the day, then I'll put together, 1 to 6 sheets of graphics, just pulling the little pages from my files, and then print those for that day. And then usually I have cutoff of around 10 or 11 in the morning that I'll print it, and then I start cutting and bagging it, run it over to the post office, try and get it out that day.
No, your turnaround time is amazing, man. I mean, like I said, I've ordered decals from you, and usually it's never been more than 4 or 5 days before they're in the mailbox. And it's kind of like that kid at Christmas thing. I mean, I'm collecting decals right now, just collect decals. It's like someday I'm going to get around to doing that squadron, and I've got to have that one.
Yeah,
so,
thanks.
Yeah.
But I'm a hobby guy. I'm a modeler, a painter, and so if I see something wrong with the decal sheet and it's already gone out, I'll try and send a replacement, send an email and say, this is screwed up. I got something on the way. If it comes out of the printer screwed up, I just eat it, throw it away. When I order something, I want it in the mail. So, same for me. If somebody orders something, they gave me money, I want to get it out to them.
Yeah.
So,
on the topic of custom details or decals, you had mentioned that changing numbers, numerals, whatever, that kind of thing is pretty easy. How tough is it to do things like you mentioned nose art sometimes can be a real challenge. How do you work with that? And how is that a big challenge?
For nose art and whatnot, that's beyond my training that the Army provided. Circle, stars, rectangles, letters, those are all great things, floating clouds. Then for the nose art and stuff, I have to go in there and start kind of freehanding with the mouse. And I use primarily LibreOffice, my software package. It's kind of like Microsoft Office, only it's free. And I've been working on Inkscape a little bit. And I just try and recreate it using things that I've learned over the past couple of years between the software on the computer and what comes out at the other end on the printer. Just kind of trial and error to make it look right at the scale it's going to be presented at.
You have a fair amount of things on the decal sheets I've seen that are pretty, not just letters and numbers that are really nice and accurate. Things like the some of the Jagdgeschwader badges and stuff for the different units and stuff that are included on your sheets, and those are, that's not just a letter or something. You've done a pretty good job with those.
Oh, thanks. But that's one of the things with the at something that's 1.5, 2 millimeters, 2.5 millimeters side to side. If you blow that up to a full page, it's a couple of circles that are put together with some rectangles this way, or elongated triangle or something like that. But at 2 millimeters, it looks like a demon's head, or it looks like a Viking boat, but it's really just a crescent and a couple of rectangles and squares.
You've done a fine job with it, sir. Let me ask you for something larger. We were talking a little bit offline about some B-29 stuff for Korea, and some of those aircraft, actually most of them, had some artwork on them. If somebody was able to provide, some kind of electronic format file of the actual artwork, is that something that you're able to maybe cut and paste and avoid all the the actual freehanding of the artwork? Is that something that's possible?
Generally, I do not, except the outside files, for 2 reasons. One, I'm not sure of the copyright. Who actually owns the artwork that's being provided to me. And the other thing is, even without copyright, when I get the file, there's so much that might have to be done to make it look good when it comes out of the printer. that I generally don't accept it. There was one case where a professional modeler came to me with some artwork. He had the rights to it, and he gave me a file, and I played with it, gave him some decals back. So I really didn't do much. But it's not the norm.
See how that could be a pretty big burden. You've already got orders you're pumping out and things you're changing that are a little more reasonable from a workload standpoint, I would guess. So that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, there's and that's some of the things that I that won't touch. If it's copyrighted or trademarked, won't touch it. There's somebody recently asked if I would do some nose art for C-130 unit in Pennsylvania, and they didn't provide any links or anything, so I just I Googled it, and there was Steelers logo on the front of the plane. Nope, not going to do it.
Yep.
You mentioned that you do lots of stuff besides just airplanes. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the other types of decals and things you're doing?
Most of those have been custom. I get requests for tattoos for 28 millimeter figures. They'll want little symbols or signs or something like that they can put on, a barbarian's arm. Some small scale signs for post-apocalyptic games. Police, sheriff decals and stuff for Car Wars. Just spaceship names, numbers, stuff like that.
I guess it seems like there could be kind of limitless applications, right?
Yeah, it's just amazing the length and breadth of stuff that you're doing, man. That's just cool.
So what's the wildest thing you've done so far? The most interesting order you've taken over?
Well, there have been a number of them. The one that I was mentioning was where the modeler sent me the art. It was for a privateer, a 1/48 scale privateer model. And I didn't think much of it. And then a little bit later, about 6 months later, something like that, I was looking for fine scale modeler or something online, and there was the model. And it had won SoonerCon 2017 or something like that. Best in show, first place, yada, yada, yada.
Wow.
And yeah, I didn't do the artwork, but I printed the decal and I printed some of the little names on the front of it. So that was, that was a surprise. There was another guy did a B-24 in 1/48 scale called the Burma Queen. And I think he did it for a friend that was a vet from World War II. That I always get a kick out of that, where they're doing something for somebody else. And then the other thing gets me is the just seeing the decals on pictures on different sites or on YouTube. Crazy.
All right.
That's got to be pretty rewarding.
Yeah.
See it all the time. Folks are posting up their projects. I think I mentioned this earlier on some of the sites that really cater to this hobby, and you read the comments. So somebody will post a great photo of their airplanes, and the comments are almost always somebody's asking, "Hey, where'd you get those decals?" And everybody always says, "Decals are from Miscellaneous Miniatures." And I can't think of a time when I didn't see that response. And so there are people out there that are using them, but there's still people out there asking where they're coming from. So we're hoping that having you on and talk about this helps people, find your site and get the right decals and get their projects looking great.
Yeah, just don't do another game. Have you done any work for any of the Horus Heresy people at all? Space Marines, that type of stuff?
I have only done 40K decals, or for 40K miniature for painting commissions I've done.
Yeah,
just different stuff.
The 30K guys are this grognardy side of Warhammer that I belong to, and I can tell you that one of the big pushes in events lately has been guys trying to get decals printed for like a certain campaign. Like if you came to that event, you could get a decal sheet for that campaign. So when you went back and built vehicles, I was in this campaign, and you could actually put campaign details. And I know that they're all ordering their stuff, and it's really expensive from a company down in Australia. So I've definitely got some guys that I'm going to send your way, because I know that there are a lot of guys that coordinate events that are looking, to get 50 to 100 sheets printed up just so they can have them for swag at events, and would be willing to pay for that service, basically, especially over what they're paying with the Australian mailing prices and everything else with that guy they're dealing with. So that's definitely something I'm going to look at.
Yeah, as long as the images aren't trademarked or copyrighted.
Yeah, this is all custom stuff that guys are doing. It's a fake planet somewhere, and a fake set of heraldry or something really simple. Usually, it's just like a badge for a fake planet. And I went and my Space Marine served on this planet in this campaign, and it was some goofy event that somebody was running somewhere. So, but guys get pretty into that stuff when you can go to an event and actually get yourself some stuff to put on your vehicles that was actually from the event.
Yeah.
When you say a badge, Chris, you're talking about something that's probably comparable in size to like a 1 to 200 scale roundel or something on an aircraft, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're not talking about anything major. It would be something that, he was printing maybe 20 sheets for, and then they were cutting it up into smaller sections and just putting it in swag bags. So, it as a prize for attending the event and participating in the campaign.
Pretty cool idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that done at several of the larger events here in the United States. And like I said, it's really popular with the people that come. And guys are willing to pay for it because it's just something really unique and really, to say, hey, I was there. And so, yeah, just because we're nerds.
Well, Kevin, you said that very recently, really, you've gotten super busy because of Blood Red Skies and other things. Where do you see your business going in the next few years? Do you have some vision for where you expect to be with this in the coming year?
Well, with the company, said I started off as a painting service, and then I picked up decals. Decals have taken over, so I've stopped taking commissions for painting, and I'll just be painting for myself, and then I'll make that available on the website if people want to buy it. Otherwise, I'll just have it. But as far as the decals go, I don't see any change in that part of the business. I'll continue to make decals. The two concerns I have for the future are decal paper and the printer. And the decal paper was getting the blue back paper that let you see the white images from a place in Florida till last June, I think it was, and they went out of business. And then there was a place in Texas that was making it, and then they stopped making it. And so now I'm getting my decal paper from Australia.
No.
But
Australia is still in the mix.
Yeah, but it's good paper. It comes in A4 size, whereas all my files had been set up for letter size, which is a little bit of a pain in the butt to convert. It works, and they have paper, so there's that. And as far as the printer goes, it's a relatively new modern printer. I think I bought it in 16 or 17, I can't remember which, but it's an Oki 942 printer. Prints white, and then it prints cyan, yellow, magenta, and black. And it if anything goes wrong with that, that's $20,000 to $30,000 to replace it. Oh. And that's something I don't know if I don't know what I was thinking that day that I said yes, I'll take it. But it wasn't that much back then.
Yeah, I've seen people online talk about, starting a decal business, and that's usually where they get to, is they get to the point where they're looking at printers, and then they're looking at secondhand printers, and they're like, oh wow, this is a lot more expensive than going out and buying a $1,000 LaserJet or something like that. This is a pretty substantial layout to be able to do this.
Yeah, even for I have two printers. The first one I bought and used for about 6 months is an Oki also. Prints white, and then the 3 colors not black, but it printed white last, so it made for a situation where you had to print a white underlayer and then the colored overlayer, so you have a 2-part decal. So that just sits there, but that's expensive too.
No small endeavor then. I mean, what you're doing for this community is pretty substantial, and it's clear that you deliver a good product, and it was no small thing to do it. It's a pretty amazing story. You know, I didn't know anything about what it takes to make decals, and I really don't know much, but you've educated me a little on it. It makes me wonder, really, I got this idea because I was seeing Chris's work in progress photos for some Japanese aircraft he was doing. And he was, you know, doing a bunch of masking, and he was trying to repurpose decals from an entirely different game to get what he needed for his aircraft. Is there some, because of the process you use for decals, is there some maybe application for other things that might be kind of similar? One thing that came to my mind was something like, I don't know, some kind of sheets that are flexible stencils for camouflage patterns or something like that. Is that something that's even remotely in the neighborhood of what you're doing now?
I've not looked into that really. I've seen the patterns and templates and the stencils and stuff that are out there, but I haven't looked at it.
Because you do such a good job of scaling everything to these aircraft, it makes me think, like, I wonder if there's some way, you know, this is completely just brainstorming here, but if there's, you know, I've seen flexible, almost like decal sheet, or not decal sheets, but like vinyl sticker sheets that for, you know, larger scale stuff where you can make, I wonder if there's some application where something that's appropriately scaled so that a flexible film of some kind that could be a stencil would lay appropriately over the aircraft specific to that particular aircraft. You know, you can imagine something like that.
You could probably do something like that. You'd have to find the right kind of medium, the paper or whatever.
Yeah, painting those leading edge, those wing stripes on those zeros this weekend. Yeah, I'd almost given you a kidney if somebody would have offered to do it for me. Because I was trying to get a line that's literally like 2 millimeters wide, and try to get it straight when you're on a dark background. Because I was putting those yellow stripes on the front of the zero wings. Yeah, that was a challenge. So
the struggle is real.
Oh, of course, I had yellow paint that ran down my panel lines behind the masking tape. So then I was there with the triple O brush trying to clean those up without ruining the paint job I already had. But it was one of those things, you know, I did the plane complete, and I was like, I don't want to do those yellow stripes because it's just going to be difficult and it's going to mess up a really pretty model. But then I kept looking at the cover of the Osprey books and I was like, yeah, but they painted those lines on every plane they had. And you really need them if they're going to look right.
Yeah.
So I had to go back and do it.
That's when I put the model aside for a couple.
Yeah. And that's what I did. I actually shelved the zeros for like a week, and it was like, I'm gonna wait till I've got a good 4 hours just to do the taping process, not even the painting process, and go back down there and tackle it. Because I tried to do a test model, and it was driving me nuts. By the time I was done, I had a pretty good, you know, assembly line going. But yeah, it's just little things that you don't imagine at this scale that tend to be really challenging. And I like I said, that's where your decals have come in super handy, especially doing my Sturmovics, having those Russian writing decals and the lightning bolt decals and that type of stuff. That's stuff that I could never dream of hand painting, and it's something that gives the model just so much more story and so much more realism on the table when you get stuff like that. And I'm definitely going to be looking your way. You know, I'm doing mainly Russian. I'm doing a little bit of Japanese and Luftwaffe also, but I'm doing mainly Russian. And one of the things that I definitely want to see is some more of the icons that the Russians used. You know, nothing copyrighted, but things like the banner of Lenin, which was really common for them to put on their plane, and just the star kill markings, that type of stuff that's just not out there in the 1/200 scale. And I think the Russian community and the Russian Blood Red Skies community would really like to see in decals.
Yeah.
That would, you know, sheets that might even not even be model specific, but just a sheet that had, you know, the different slogans and the kill markings and stuff like that on it. I know that's something I would buy several of just to have in my collection when I was doing planes later, because that was something that I was definitely looking for I'm going to go off into P40s here soon, doing Lindley's P40s, and I really want to get some banner of linens made up because that was a really common marking for the P40s that they were flying at the time. So I'll be hitting you up for that.
Okay. I'm just making a couple of notes here.
So you got to start your Italian stuff. We teased it a little bit last episode about this
yep.
Malta campaign. So and maybe I'll talk a little bit about that right now. So part of our intent with the Lead Pursuit podcast is to deliver some additional content for the community, playable content, if you will. And one idea we have is to deliver, campaign stuff, missions, and perhaps a bit more that coincides with significant releases from Warlord for Blood Red Skies. And their next big thing coming out is going to be Airstrike, right? So we are currently doing a bunch of research and putting together stuff to potentially have a set of pretty well thought out mission sets that support Airstrike and general play, then incorporate actions that occurred for the battle for air supremacy over Malta. And I think that opens the door for all kinds of interesting. That's the whole reason why I want to come to you, Kevin, for some ideas about some additional units for aircraft you already make decals for. But I just want to change up some of the numbers so we can represent the specific units I'm looking for. But Chris has agreed to dive into the Italian stuff on that. So I know you have some Italian stuff, and maybe more on the way.
You've got a decent amount of Italian stuff up already, and I think I'm going to be able to piece together a lot of what I need right off that. But if I need anything else, I'll hit you up. But I'm definitely going to be branching out into that. It's kind of a subgenre of airplanes, and when you see World War II planes, you don't see a lot of iconic Italian planes flying around. But we're kind of getting into Battle of Malta, and that's definitely where they were doing some of their heaviest flying and getting into Africa. So it'll be fascinating to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, with the Italians then reaching back to the leading edge stripes on the or bands on the Japanese planes. That one of the things I would like to be able to do are the stripes and bands that go on the aircraft, whether it's the yellow bands that go on the front of some of the British Japanese ones, invasion stripes, fuselage bands. But those are very time consuming.
Yeah.
Just to get the geometry right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look at the Japanese ones, a lot of them are curved. Like when you look at the ones from Warlord, and like I said, I just did a little private project. I did the 582 Kokutai squadron, and their main ace, Saburo Shindo, he used it's like a double V shape on his fuselage. And that's where I went and I used some Warhammer decals that was kind of a double pinstripe, and was able to just painstakingly cut the angles right and get it on there. That was just getting those two stripes on there was about a 1 hour process. But I can tell you, from doing that myself and microset, microsol, and trying to get the decal to bend in the right direction, you're doing the work of God when you get stuff like that done, because it saves so much time. I mean, that is one of the most frustrating. I mean, it's tiny. I mean, we're talking about an airplane a little bit bigger than a quarter. And I think I put more energy and time in that tiny airplane than I did some of my, 30K tanks that are 128 scale and have all kinds of battle damage and everything else on them. It's something about working in a scale. It's both tedious, but at the same time, it's kind of really enjoyable when you pull it off and it looks right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, those fuselage stripes, like the ones you did for the American Volunteer Group, because I've picked up those decals and I've started doing some of those P40s, and those are really good. They're really helpful having those different stripes on there. Yep. But I can understand how that geometry is definitely pushing and taxing.
And those aren't too bad. I think those are just a straight stripe that kind of live with the little end that you trim the end, but you get into the Mustangs with their damn air scoop. And then you get the bubble top Mustang, and then you got the BC model with the hood going back, and then by the way, the Armaments and Miniature model is not the same shape as the Warlord Games model. So
yeah, we're interested to see.
They both look like P-51s, but they're different.
We're interested to see how much that changes here too, because talking with Andy Chambers and John Russell from Warlord, they're definitely going to switch over to that new Warlord resin So I think some of the differences we're seeing in airplanes by them having to use pewter for some of their runs, that stuff I think will go away, and we'll be looking at less chunky out of scale models because some of their stuff is kind of pushing it. And to be honest, I hate working with pewter. If I'd never have to pick up a pewter model again, I'll be more than happy. I love working with resin, and I think that'll kind of bring some commonality between what AIM's doing and what Warlord's doing.
Hey, Kevin, this may be a little off topic, but you mentioned you were essentially a pro painter for this hobby, painting these 1 to 200 scale aircraft. Do you have any advice for us from, maybe technique standpoint, maybe types of paints or processes you used in painting your aircraft?
Primarily brush. Occasionally I'll pull out the airbrush, but at the smaller scales, it's pretty much just a brush. Vallejo model colors. I'll sometimes use the lifelike paints or Vallejo air color. Use rattle can for the primer. Paint the canopies first, just like painting eyeballs on a 28 millimeter figure. Paint the canopies first, then paint around them. And it depends on the model. Sometimes I'll start putting future on them, as I'm painting, just to kind of protect what I'm doing. And I used to use oil-based washes almost exclusively, but I found that those don't work well with my decal.
Yep.
So I don't recommend using oil-based washes on my decals.
Have you tried the Flory wash yet?
No, I heard that in one of the podcasts. I've not tried it.
Oh, brother, it is at this scale, it is the end all be all of washing. It really is. There are some applications where it doesn't work as well as oil, but those are the minority of conditions because like I said, doing my zeros this weekend, it was, if you get a good layer of gloss down, and Brett, thanks for telling me about the AK gloss because that AK gloss works better than the future I was using in the past. I was able to lay it down and I hit it with a hairdryer to dry it and went back 5 minutes later, rubbed a wet Q-tip over it, and it looks like somebody went in there and painstakingly did every one of those panel lines with black. It's just gorgeous. And I did it right over some of your decals and it looked fine.
Thanks.
Because it's clay-based and not oil-based. Yep, it's clay-based and not oil-based. So it's a water-based solution and not an enamel-based solution.
Yeah, as far as the paint colors go, it's hard to know what the actual plane looked like. There's color pictures, color plates, all that, but that's somebody's interpretation of what it looked like. That's the color film or the black and white film that was changed to color. So if it looks good to you, then I'd say go with it as far as colors go.
Hey man, is this a private podcast or can any a-hole join?
Oh my God, our dear leader has showed up from freaking the Far East. So everybody put the signs back up and bow when he shows up. Or he'll send us to the gulag.
Hey, Doug.
In Soviet Russia, podcast record you. Sorry I'm late, guys. I was actually doing real work, which probably surprises everybody that I actually work, but I have stuff to do.
Time is in your part of the world.
Is that what you call posting pictures of Carlsberg beer on freaking Instagram?
It is. That's hard work. Hey, it's 9:45 in the morning. I haven't had a beer yet. I feel like I need one, but I haven't yet.
12 hours difference in time. You're
Yeah,
probably
awesome.
a day ahead of us.
Yeah, I am. Awesome. I'm in the future. If you want to know the lottery numbers for today. So.
Well, Kevin, it's been awesome having you on. I guess we could wrap up with just if there's anything you want the community to know about you, about Miscellaneous Miniatures, maybe how to see your products, how to follow what you got going on. What do you got for us?
Well, the website is www.missmini.com, MISCMINI.com. Send me an email, orders@missmini.com. I answer all the emails as soon as I can. So if you don't see anything within a couple of hours or a day at most, check your junk file, the bulk mail folders and all that, because I do send stuff out. And if you got a problem with the decal, something you want to see, something screwed up on it, let me know and I'll make it right.
Awesome. Doug, you had some special decals made by Kevin. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Kevin worked up a couple different things for me. I mean, obviously the Taiwanese, the Republic of China Air Force. Those were awesome. Although I will say, I about lost a few years off my life and got some gray hairs putting stripes on airplanes, but they look really good once you get those on there. And obviously the Pakistani Air Force F-86 decals as well. Those were really good for the 1/200 scale. And I'm really looking forward to trying custom Dust 1947 Brazilian Allies decals that you worked out. They're probably sitting at home right now. I got all the shipping indications, but I'm here in Malaysia, so I haven't seen them yet.
They're there.
Well, that's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm sure they're going to work out great. So I'm looking forward to getting some of the walkers set up and some of the aircraft set up with those decals. So I appreciate you doing the custom work. I know it gets frustrating at times, but I really appreciate it. I know there's some other people who are already interested in Brazilian Expeditionary Force 1/200 scale.
Yeah, it's good to have stuff that changes up the schedule a bit, keeps things exciting.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to throw some Dust 1947 Marine Corps stuff your way. I'm doing Marines for Dust, and the decals that are out there are just kind of lacking. And it's really simple stuff, just basically like U.S. Marines and a couple names for vehicles, that type of stuff. And I'm using real World War II names that they had on vehicles and just carrying them over into Dust 1947. Some of the iconography that transferred out of World War II and some of the stuff that was on the Marine vehicles in Korea. And I just want to get some of that stuff on a decal sheet so that it's usable for the guys that are doing 1/28 scale, both Dust, and guys that are doing 1/28 scale Warlord type stuff with them just launching Korea. I think that would be a boon for both communities.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on with us, Kevin. I think Chris said it earlier. You're doing the Lord's work for this hobby. That's for sure. You've made our models, our projects look far better than they would have otherwise.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the kind words and for having me on.
You are always welcome on the podcast. If you want to come on, you just want to talk, you want to chat, you want to bull crap, you want to tell us about interesting projects you got going, you hit us up, and we'll definitely make some time to get you back on the air, man, because you are one of the backbone pillars of the community that's making just amazing stuff to put on the table, and we really appreciate it. I know I really, really appreciate the work you're doing, because there's no way I could paint that. And having those decals to fall back on, it's just been a gold mine of opportunity for future projects. So you're gonna be getting a lot of my money. In fact, we might just want to work out some other kind of deal. So
okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. Check us out on our Facebook page, Lead Pursuit, and stay tuned for more episodes and more stuff coming your way. Thanks so much, guys.
Take it easy, guys.